Mr. Henry, do you want to be my best friend? I nearly dropped my coffee. Turning my head, I saw a little girl, no taller than my waist, standing in my yard, grinning up at me like I was Santa Claus. Her blonde curls bounced with excitement, and her blue eyes sparkled like she had just found $100 bill on the sidewalk. I squinted. Who is this tiny intruder? I said, do you want to be my best friend? She repeated, tilting her head. I let out a deep sigh. Kid, I'm 72 years old. I don't do best friends. Her little mouth dropped open in horror. You don't have a best friend. Oh no, that's terrible. Before I could protest, she marched right up my porch steps and plopped herself on the rocking chair opposite mine, swinging her tiny legs like she owned the place. Hey, what do you think you're doing? I barked. Sitting, she said matter-of-factly. So, what's your favorite color? I pinched the bridge of my nose. Why are you here? Because you need a friend, she declared proudly. I live next door now. Grandma says you're a grumpy old man, but I think you just need some fun. I scowled. Grumpy? Fun? What kind of nonsense is your grandma telling you? Emily shrugged. She says you yell at squirrels. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Okay, maybe I did yell at a squirrel once or twice, but that's beside the point. Listen, Emily, right? She beamed. Yep. Don't you have, I don't know, parents? Friends your own age? She sighed dramatically. Mom's at work, and Grandma says I make too much noise when she watches her shows. But you look like you need a friend more than anyone. I groaned. Kid, I enjoy peace and quiet. So maybe go make noise somewhere else. Emily put a finger to her lips. Oh, I can be quiet. Wanna see? And just like that, she clamped her lips shut, folded her hands in her lap, and stared at me. I raised an eyebrow. Huh, that was easy. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. Then 20. Then AA. I yelped so hard my coffee sloshed onto my pants. What was that? Emily burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. You should have seen your face, Mr. Henry. You looked like, she scrunched up her nose and made the most ridiculous, exaggerated scowl. I gaped at her, utterly speechless. This kid was a menace. Okay, that's it, I grumbled, standing up. Time for you to, hey. Before I could finish, Emily had bolted off my porch and straight into my yard. She ran in circles, arms flailing, before suddenly stopping and bending down. What are you doing now? I groaned. Looking for a good spot, she murmured. A good spot for what? She shot me a brilliant smile. For my surprise. And with that, she patted the ground, nodded approvingly, and then ran off. I stood there for a long moment, utterly bewildered. What in the world had just happened? The next morning, I stepped outside, still grumbling about the coffee stain on my pants from yesterday. And that's when I saw it. Right there, in the middle of my yard, was a tiny flower. I blinked. I sure as heck hadn't planted it. Then, like a slow-moving train wreck, realization dawned on me. That little rascal. I stood there, staring at the tiny flower, my fists on my hips. It wasn't much, just a single daisy, small and delicate, its petals still unfolding. But it wasn't supposed to be there, and I sure as heck hadn't put it there. Shaking my head, I bent down, ready to pluck it out. Don't you dare! I jolted so hard I nearly lost my balance. Emily stood at the edge of my yard, hands on her hips, eyes blazing with determination. Mr. Henry, that is a gift. You can't just rip it out. I straightened up and crossed my arms. A gift? Kid, you planted something in my yard without asking. She nodded enthusiastically. Yep. Now you have something nice to look at. I blinked. You buried a plant in the middle of my yard and thought that would make me happy? She put her hands on her hips. Well, yeah, I groaned, rubbing my temples. Kid, you can't just plant things in people's yards without permission. But I did ask, she insisted. Yesterday. Remember? I said I had a surprise. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Well, she did say that. But why right in the middle of my yard? I pressed. Emily grinned. So you can see it from your porch every day. I blinked. This kid was either the sweetest thing in the world, or the biggest troublemaker I'd ever met. Probably both. Fine, I grumbled. But no more surprises, got it? Emily gasped. Oh, that reminds me. I sighed. Why do I feel like I'm about to regret asking? She ran up to my porch again and plopped back onto the rocking chair like she owned the place. Okay, so I have a big problem, she said dramatically. I crossed my arms. What kind of problem? Emily leaned forward, looking very serious. I really love ice cream, she whispered. I blinked. Okay, but? She sighed. Grandma says I can't eat it before dinner. Buh! I chuckled despite myself. Tough luck, kid. Emily tilted her head. So, I need someone to sneak me some ice cream. Wanna help? I laughed out loud. The nerve of this kid. Absolutely not. She pouted. Ugh, you're no fun. I shook my head, smiling. And you, young lady, are a handful. She grinned. Yep. For the first time in a long while, I found myself chuckling, genuinely chuckling. Maybe this kid wasn't so bad after all. Or maybe, just maybe, my quiet little life was about to get very interesting. A few weeks passed, and against all odds, I got used to the little troublemaker. Every morning, like clockwork, Emily would pop into my yard, chattering about everything and nothing. One day, she was convinced that the squirrels in my tree were plotting against her. The next, she claimed she could set a world record for jumping on one foot, if only her traitorous left foot would cooperate. And every morning, I'd sigh dramatically, mutter about how I preferred peace and quiet, and pretend that I wasn't looking forward to our talks. The truth? That kid had wormed her way into my routine, into my house, and, though I refused to admit it, into my heart. And then one day she was gone. At first, I told myself not to be ridiculous. She's a kid, Henry. Kids get busy. But when a whole week passed without her bounding onto my porch, without her outrageous stories or mischievous grins, something inside me started to feel wrong. I tried not to think about it. I really did. But I caught myself glancing at her grandma's house more than once. I'd step outside, expecting to hear her tiny voice calling my name. I even caught myself talking to the squirrels once, just to fill the silence. That was the final straw. So swallowing my pride, I did something I hadn't done in years. I knocked on a neighbor's door. Mrs. Thompson opened it, looking surprised. Henry? This is a first. What's the occasion? I cleared my throat. Just wondering about Emily. Haven't seen her in a while. Her face softened instantly, and my stomach twisted. That wasn't a good sign. Oh, Henry, she sighed. I should have told you. She's in the hospital. The words hit me like a slap. What? She caught a bad infection. It got worse fast. Mrs. Thompson shook her head. The doctors say she'll be okay, but she's had a tough time. I stood there, gripping my cane a little tighter. Emily, the most energetic, unstoppable little force I'd ever met, stuck in a hospital bed? Something about that just didn't sit right with me. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt afraid. Hospitals and I had never been friends. The last time I stepped into one was 5 years ago, to say goodbye to my wife. But this time, as I walked down those sterile halls, gripping a small potted daisy, the same kind Emily had planted in my yard, I realized something. I wasn't here to say goodbye. I was here for someone who needed me, and I wasn't about to let her down. Emily looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. She lay curled up in the hospital bed, her golden curls tangled, her little hands clutching a stuffed rabbit. The sight of her so still made my chest tighten. But then, her eyes fluttered open. And the second she saw me, her whole face lit up. I knew you'd come, she whispered, her voice scratchy but excited. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah, she nodded weakly. Grandma said you're a grumpy old man who doesn't like people, but I knew you liked me. I snorted. Kid, you are dangerously close to being too smart for your own good. She giggled, then spotted the flower in my hand. Her eyes went wide. You brought a daisy. I shrugged, setting it on the table beside her. Figured you might need something nice to look at. Emily brushed her fingers against the petals, her smile soft. You kept the one I planted, right? She asked. I hesitated. I hadn't just kept it. I'd been taking care of it. And against all odds, I'd planted more. Yeah, I muttered. It's still there. Emily's smile stretched wider. Good. That means you're not grumpy anymore. I chuckled. Oh, I'm still plenty grumpy. She giggled again, but then her little fingers curled around mine. Mr. Henry? Her voice was smaller now, more uncertain. I squeezed her hand gently. Yeah, kid? Her eyes shimmered. I was scared. My throat tightened. I looked at this tiny whirlwind of a girl, the kid who had barged into my life, ignored all my grumbling, and somehow made my world brighter. And I realized something. So was I. But I couldn't let her know that. So I cleared my throat and mustered my best grumpy old man voice. Well, that was silly, I said. You're too stubborn to let some lousy infection take you down. Emily giggled, squeezing my hand back. Yeah, I think I'm too annoying to give up. I laughed. Kid, I think you might be right. Emily recovered. And when she came home, she sprinted straight into my yard, skidding to a stop when she saw what I had done. Her mouth dropped open. You made a whole garden. She shrieked. I folded my arms, pretending to be annoyed. Well, you did plant the first one. Figured I might as well finish what you started. She turned in a slow circle, taking in the sight. Flowers of all kinds bloomed across my yard, daisies, sunflowers, tulips. A riot of color. Life. Emily turned back to me, eyes shining. Then, before I could react, she flung herself at me in the biggest hug I'd ever received. I nearly toppled over. But I didn't. Instead, I laughed, hugging her back. Right then I knew. This kid wasn't just my annoying little neighbor. She was family. And thanks to her, I wasn't alone anymore.